Hi everybody and welcome to this time lapse. We've got these irises, again very inspired by the botanical artists of the 19th and 18th century. I generated this image using an AI program called Mid-Journey. I am working on the Canson velvet paper, which I really do love, but you do need a few layers on the paper before you rub pastel in, because it just feels weird to me. It's not sore per se, it's not like a sanded paper, but for me to work comfortably I definitely need a few layers on there. The sizes of this is a little bit bigger than A4. And you can see I've got my printed reference photograph right next to me, as well as the picture on my laptop, which is down on my right, which you can't see in the shot. But I work from both. I'll work from my laptop as well as the actual picture, which I'll always put up right next to the easel. So the big thing for me was I wanted these purples to sing. I chose the brightest purples I had. So it's a mixture of brands from Mount Vision through to Unison, and I have lots of Giraud pastels that I used, as well as Terry Ludwig, as well as Jack Richardson. Literally, I went through my collection looking for high saturated color. I really wanted the color to be the story of this, because it's not very often you get to crack out such vibrant color, except say for florals and fruit, and I was just going to take full advantage of that. I changed the image a little bit when it came to actually doing the pasteling. You can see just below the middle iris there, the higher one, there's another bud. I decided to leave that bud out, and I just kept the lower bud there on the right. Often when you're using a program like AI, there's going to be mistakes or things about the picture that just don't look quite right, and for me that was definitely one of them, so I just took it out. So you can see the vibrant colors, a mixture of magentas, so pinky purples, all the way through to blue purples, even some blue in some areas. Like I said, I wanted this to sing with color. I find this paper is pretty awesome in that, I use Pastel Matte a lot as well. I love that paper, especially for details. But sometimes the color can look a tad dull, where for some reason my finished painting on this paper, the colors always look that much more vibrant. So I tend to gravitate to this paper for that reason, when I want such a saturated, colorful painting. So I'm using a mixture of the pastel pencils as well as pastel sticks. Often you'll see me lay down with a pastel pencil first, just to get the drawing in or the outlines in, and then if I'm happy I'll go over with a pastel stick. The reason being is pastel pencils lay down less pigment than a pastel stick, so it's easier to make corrections. Now, because of this paper, you can still make corrections the same as with Pastel Matte. If you're using a really good brand of pastel paper, making mistakes is easier to fix than, say, using other, like an ingress paper. Papers that allow you to build layers, and I would also say papers you're allowed to get wet. So if you've really made a whoopsie, you can always just put some water in a paintbrush not one of your fancy paintbrushes, and you can erase your drawing like that, because it will melt. All the water will just make the pigment basically like watercolor, I suppose. It will be much muddier because all the colors will mix together and create brown. But it is possible. Where certain papers like the Sennelier Le Carte paper, you cannot get that wet. It literally melts the paper. So, but for pastel matte, and I think the Canson, you can get the papers wet. You can use solvents on them. And that's really useful for underpainting, or like if you make a terrible mistake that you need fixing. So I really like that about pastel. It's forgiving, and I need a paper that's going to allow me to make mistakes, because I make a lot of mistakes as I build up my work. So the darkest purples in this piece are the Terry Ludwig Dark Intense 2 set, which is a wonderful set full of blue, violets and magentas that are so rich and dark that really give those dark areas life. If you don't have that set, because it is very expensive, and over here in the UK you can't buy them, the Terry Ludwigs, as individual sticks. They come in a set of 30, so you've got to spend like 230 quid. It's very expensive, but you could use black and then go over with your darkest purple you have to create that color if you don't have the Terry Ludwigs. So that's a little tip if you need to darken down. Now, the pink I've just put in there again, I am aiming for bright color here. So that is a luminous pink from Schminky that I pulled out the box. It's brand new, and I just thought, yep, I'm gonna use it here. So the leaves down at the bottom that I'm working on now, they're quite blue in the reference, and I tend to use a lot of greeny browny based greens for my leaves. I just think it makes them look a bit more realistic. So that was another little change, not a drastic one, but another little change that I made. Rather than keeping the leaves like a teal sort of color, I made them more green and like a yellow green. This is coming to an end now, but you can see this over in real time on my Patreon. I'll leave a link in the description below. But I shall see you in the next one. Bye for now.